Something massive just happened in the auto world, and no one saw it coming. Stellantis, the parent company of Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler, just flipped the entire industry upside down with massive price cuts that are sending shockwaves through dealerships and rival automakers. We're talking about slashed prices on trucks, SUVs, and muscle cars that were once out of reach, and suddenly they're being dumped on the market for tens of thousands less. But what's really going on here? Why is Stellantis doing this now? And how did we go from record prices to record panic? Let's dig deep, because this isn't just a sale. It's a warning sign for the entire US auto market. Imagine walking into a dealership last year staring at a Ram 1500 with a $70,000 sticker, and now that same truck is sitting there for $42,000 or and the dealership still can't move it. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what's happening. Stellantis has quietly unleashed a price war to clear mountains of unsold inventory, and it's forcing Ford, GM, and even Toyota to rethink everything. Now, the first big question, why now? Why would Stellantis, a company that's been raking in profits from inflated prices, suddenly start chopping them like there's no tomorrow? The answer lies in a perfect storm brewing beneath the surface. Sales have slowed to a crawl. Dealership lots across America are overflowing with unsold vehicles, especially big-ticket models like the Ram 1500, Jeep Wagoneer, and Dodge Durango. High interest rates have crushed consumer demand, and buyers who were once willing to finance $80,000 trucks at 2% interest are now walking away when they see double-digit loan rates. The result? A sales freeze. Dealers are panicking. Some have been sitting on brand new 2023 and even leftover 2022 inventory. Rows and rows of unsold trucks, just baking in the sun, costing them thousands every month in floor plan interest. One dealership manager in Texas reportedly said, "We're drowning in Rams." Stellantis has to do something. And that something turned out to be massive factory-backed incentives and price cuts, some reaching up to $15,000 off MSRP. But here's the twist. Dealerships aren't all happy about it, because while Stellantis is offering rebates, it's also slashing invoice pricing and tightening profit margins. Dealers who were used to making fat profits on each sale are now being squeezed. Many feel blindsided, saying Stellantis didn't just start a price war, they started a survival game. But make no mistake, this isn't just desperation. Stellantis has a bigger plan in play. Behind these price cuts is a multi-billion-dollar bet on the US market. The company's CEO, Carlos Tavares, has been pouring billions into new EV plants, battery facilities, and manufacturing upgrades across North America. Why? Because Stellantis knows the US is still the biggest profit pool in the world. But to win here, they have to fix one major problem: brand perception. For years, Stellantis brands, especially Jeep and Ram, have struggled with reliability concerns, inflated prices, and declining consumer confidence. Buyers are fed up with expensive models that offer less value compared to competitors like Toyota or Ford. So, by dropping prices dramatically, Stellantis is trying to reset the narrative, to remind Americans that Jeep and Ram are still attainable, still rugged, still worth it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Insiders say Stellantis is preparing for a major EV and hybrid transition by 2026. That means they need to move current gas-powered inventory fast to make room for a new generation of electrified models. These price cuts aren't just discounts, they're a full-scale clear-out. But there's another layer to this. The slowdown in sales isn't just about high interest rates, it's also about changing consumer behavior. Americans are holding onto their vehicles longer than ever. The average car on US roads today is more than 12 years old, and people aren't rushing to trade in because prices have been sky-high for years. Combine that with rising living costs, expensive insurance, and job market uncertainty, and you've got a perfect storm that's freezing new vehicle demand. Even used cars are sitting longer. The used truck market, once a gold mine, has cooled dramatically. Dealers who used to flip used Rams and Jeeps for profit are now watching prices drop month after month. That pressure is forcing Stellantis to act before inventory turns into a financial time bomb. And it's not just about today's sales, it's about tomorrow's survival. Stellantis knows that if they don't make a bold move now, they risk losing long-term market share to more agile rivals like Ford, Tesla, and even newcomers like Rivian and BYD, who are aggressively entering North America. That's why the company isn't just cutting prices. They're doubling down on US investment. Stellantis has committed over $30 billion toward electrification and American manufacturing. They're building battery plants in Indiana and Ontario, retooling factories for EV production, and launching a wave of new models under Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. But there's a catch. To fund this transformation, Stellantis has to free up cash and clean up inventory. Every unsold truck sitting on a dealer lot is money-trapped. So by slashing prices now, they're trying to turn that dead weight into momentum. And while this may look like a crisis from the outside, it might actually be Stellantis' smartest move yet, if it works. Because once inventory clears and EV production ramps up, they'll be in a prime position to relaunch their brands at scale. But make no mistake, this move has sent shockwaves through Detroit. Ford dealers are fuming, GM is quietly adjusting incentives, and Toyota's watching closely. Because if Stellantis' bold price strategy catches on, it could trigger an industry-wide price collapse. Something we haven't seen since the 2008 financial crisis. And the truth is, it might already be happening. Reports are surfacing that Ford and GM are quietly offering loyalty bonuses, hidden rebates, and extended financing just to keep up. The entire truck market, once untouchable, is now on shaky ground. For buyers, though, this could be the best news in years. Suddenly that dream truck or SUV might actually be affordable again. But there's a catch. Dealerships are trying to play both sides. While factory prices drop, some dealers are trying to mask the discounts with hidden fees, overpriced add-ons, and dealer protection packages to claw back their profits. So while Stellantis may be offering $10,000 to $15,000 in rebates on paper, by the time a buyer sits down at the finance desk, those savings can quietly disappear. Some dealerships are even refusing to honor the full rebate unless the customer finances through their preferred lender. A shady move that's frustrating customers who thought they were getting a deal of a lifetime. And this exposes another big issue, the growing tension between Stellantis and its dealers. Stellantis wants to push massive volume fast, while dealers still want to protect their profit margins. It's a classic tug of war. Corporate leadership wants numbers on the sales report, while dealerships are fighting to stay afloat amid tighter margins, rising interest on their floor plans, and slowing foot traffic. In many ways, Stellantis is using this moment as a stress test for its retail network. The company has already hinted that it's looking at new direct-to-consumer models, much like Tesla's online system, which could bypass dealerships altogether for future EV sales. And this massive pricing shakeup could be their first step toward identifying which dealers can adapt and which ones won't survive the transition. Behind the scenes, insiders believe this isn't just about price cuts or moving metal. It's about data. Stellantis is studying customer responses, dealership behavior, and market elasticity in real time. They're watching to see how much consumers will bite when prices drop, and where the demand truly lies. Because when their wave of new hybrid and EV models launches over the next 2 years, Stellantis wants to know exactly how low they can price, how fast they can move, and how much brand loyalty is really left. And it's not just speculation. Stellantis has already announced it's rolling out over 25 new models by 2027, including fully electric Jeeps, a Ram 1500 REV, and even a next-gen Dodge Charger EV. But to pull that off, they need dealerships, supply chains, and pricing structures that are lean, efficient, and competitive. This price war is their dry run for that future. But let's be clear, this move exposes how fragile the auto industry has become. For years, automakers thrived on inflated pricing, supply shortages, and record profits. Now that supply chains have stabilized and consumers are pushing back, those margins are crumbling. It's the hangover after the high. Even automakers that looked invincible just a year ago are now facing trouble. Ford's F-150 Lightning sales are cooling off. GM's electric lineup has stumbled out of the gate, and Tesla's constant price cuts have set new expectations that traditional automakers simply can't ignore. Stellantis' move might look risky, but in reality, it's a necessary reset. one that could redefine how cars are priced and sold in America for the next decade. Because if consumers start expecting lower prices, better value, and faster availability, the rest of the industry will have no choice but to follow. There's also a psychological shift happening. Buyers are no longer dazzled by fancy badges or overhyped luxury trims. They're doing the math. They're asking, well, why should I pay $75,000 for a truck when Stellantis is offering a similar one for nearly half the price? That mindset terrifies legacy automakers. Because once customers realize that the market is adjusting, it becomes harder to justify premium pricing ever again. And here's where Stellantis might just outsmart everyone. By being the first to trigger this correction, they're controlling the narrative. Instead of being seen as desperate, they can frame it as being consumer first, the brand that brought prices back to reality. If that sticks, they could rebuild trust and capture a whole new wave of buyers who were priced out of the market for years. But Ford and GM aren't going down quietly. In response to Stellantis' cuts, both are rumored to be preparing countermeasures, from extended warranty offers to special low-interest financing programs. We're already seeing signs. Ford recently reintroduced big rebates on select F-150 models, and GM has started offering employee pricing deals to retail buyers, something they haven't done in years. The competition is heating up fast, and that's exactly what Stellantis wants. They're betting that by forcing rivals to drop prices, they can level the playing field, especially as they prepare to unleash their next-generation models. But there's still one more piece to this puzzle: the broader economy. Rising inflation, stagnant wages, and high borrowing costs have all combined to choke the car market. The average new car payment in the US is now over $750 per month, a number that's completely unsustainable for the average household. Something had to break, and Stellantis just broke it. By cutting prices and offering steep incentives, they're effectively saying, we'll take the hit now, because survival is better than stagnation. It's a play straight out of the recession-era rulebook, when companies slashed margins to keep factories running and avoid layoffs. But the real question is, how long can they sustain it? These cuts are burning cash fast, and if competitors join in, the entire industry could be staring down another profitability crisis. Yet Stellantis seems ready for it. Insiders say Tavares has been preparing for this shift since 2021, quietly building financial reserves and streamlining operations for the storm that's now unfolding. So where does this all go from here? If Stellantis can move its backlog of vehicles, regain consumer trust, and successfully transition to its next-gen EV lineup, this could be the turning point that puts them back on top. But if sales don't pick up, or if the price cuts fail to translate into long-term growth, Stellantis could be staring down a massive financial hangover. The stakes couldn't be higher. Dealers are nervous, investors are watching, and competitors are circling. The US auto industry is entering a price war era, one that could redefine everything from profit margins to brand loyalty. And right now, Stellantis is leading that charge. But the question everyone's asking is, how long can they keep this up before the system cracks? Because while price cuts sound great for consumers, they can wreak havoc on brand value, residual prices, and used car markets. The backbone of dealership profits. Take a look at what's already happening. Used Ram trucks that once sold like gold are now dropping in value month after month. Dealers are watching their pre-owned inventory lose thousands overnight because the new ones are being sold cheaper than the used ones they already have. It's creating a chain reaction of depreciation that could ripple through the entire market. For Stellantis, this is a gamble that could pay off big or backfire hard. If they can move metal quickly and regain momentum, they'll be hailed as the company that brought sanity back to car prices. But if this drags on too long, they'll burn billions, strain dealer relationships, and potentially collapse resale values for years. Here's what most people aren't talking about. These massive discounts aren't just cutting into profits. They're reshaping how automakers plan for the future. Lower prices today mean lower trade-in values tomorrow, which means less buying power for consumers down the road. That could trap many buyers in what analysts are calling a negative equity loop, where their cars lose value faster than they can pay off their loans. It's a dangerous cycle, one that the 2008 crash taught us well. But Stellantis seems to be taking that risk head-on, choosing to win the short-term battle for market share rather than play it safe. In their eyes, it's a necessary sacrifice to keep factories humming and to clear the way for what comes next. The electric revolution. Because make no mistake, this entire play is leading to one destination: Stellantis' EV takeover strategy. With the Ram 1500 REV, the Dodge Charger Daytona EV, and Jeep's electric lineup all on the horizon, Stellantis is cleaning house to prepare for a massive product pivot. Their EV roadmap is ambitious, perhaps more aggressive than Ford's or GM's in terms of how quickly they want to electrify their core brands. But that transition costs billions, and Stellantis can't afford to drag old inventory into the new era. These gas-powered discounts are their last call before the company goes full throttle into electrification. And it's not just about cars, and it's about control. Stellantis wants to own every part of the EV chain, from batteries to software to digital sales. That's why they're investing heavily in battery gigafactories in Indiana and Canada, building partnerships with mining firms, and even developing their own in-car operating systems. They don't just want to sell cars, they want to own the future ecosystem that powers them. Meanwhile, dealers are growing anxious. Many of them fear that once Stellantis' EV strategy matures, they'll be cut out of the loop. EVs require less maintenance, fewer parts, and simpler service, which means dealerships could lose a huge portion of their profit streams. Add in Stellantis' potential move toward direct-to-consumer EV sales, and the writing's on the wall. The dealership model is being redefined in real time. Some dealers are already pushing back, saying Stellantis is flooding them with too many vehicles they can't sell fast enough, then blaming them when sales lag. Others, however, see this as an opportunity, a chance to finally move product, attract new buyers, and reset local pricing expectations. For them, the chaos is a blessing in disguise. But no matter which side they're on, one thing is clear. This relationship between Stellantis and its dealer network is entering its most volatile phase ever. And there's one more layer most people are missing. Stellantis isn't just reacting to US problems. This is part of a global chess move. While the US market struggles with affordability and oversupply, Stellantis is quietly using its global scale to balance the books. They're leveraging strong profits from Europe, where small car sales are booming, and channeling those funds into aggressive US pricing. In other words, Stellantis is using its international advantage to undercut Detroit at home. It's a tactic that neither Ford nor GM can easily replicate because their operations are more North America-centric. By playing the global long game, Stellantis can afford to take short-term hits in the US if it means crushing the competition and resetting market expectations for good. Meanwhile, social media is exploding. Buyers are posting dealership photos of brand new Rams marked down $15,000, or Jeep Grand Cherokees discounted 25%. Videos are going viral with titles like, "Truck prices are finally crashing," and "Did Stellantis just break the market?" It's sparking a wave of consumer curiosity and hesitation. Because while everyone loves a deal, many wonder if these price cuts are a red flag, a sign of deeper trouble ahead. Some analysts believe Stellantis is simply correcting for years of overpricing and excess production, while others see it as a desperate move to avoid a massive inventory write-down at the end of the year. Either way, the message to buyers is clear. Wait, and prices will keep falling. And that sentiment alone could drag the market even further down. That's what makes this so dangerous. Stellantis might have just started something they can't stop. If prices continue to drop across all brands, it could trigger the first full-scale automotive price collapse in over a decade, where new and used values nosedive together, dealership profits evaporate, and automakers are forced into brutal cost-cutting measures. The last time this happened, in 2008, GM and Chrysler needed government bailouts just to survive. This time, the stakes are even higher. Why? Because the industry is already deep in the middle of an EV transformation that's burning cash faster than it's making it. And that's why Stellantis' gamble is so fascinating, and terrifying. They're not waiting for the crash, they're trying to control it. By resetting prices on their own terms, they're hoping to come out stronger on the other side, while their rivals are still reacting. But can they really pull it off? Can Stellantis survive the storm it just unleashed on the market? Or will this bold move become the spark that sends the entire US auto industry into freefall? Because here's where things get truly intense. Stellantis isn't just playing defense anymore. They're quietly positioning themselves to dominate the post-crash market. If this price war does trigger a wider collapse, Stellantis could emerge as the one automaker that's already adapted. With leaner costs, loyal consumers, and a massive EV lineup ready to flood showrooms just as competitors are cutting back.